Hey toy fans, or should I say self-friend toy fans, D21 Beast Rob here, and today we're taking a look at the Warlock Build-A-Figure from the 2017 Marvel Legends X-Men wave. Now I've already reviewed all the figures in the wave so far, and as a reminder, Polaris comes with the right leg, Shatterstar the right fist, Colossus the head and alternate hand, Dazzler the left arm, Cyclops the left leg, and of course the torso with Sunfire. I'll be honest, Warlock wasn't my first, second, or really even my 20th pick on my dream list of X-Men Build-A-Figures. But I've got to give Hasbro some credit for thinking outside of the box. With more obvious choices out there like an updated Apocalypse or Mojo, or even Xavier in his hover chair, is a Build-A-Figure Warlock even worth the effort? Let's go ahead and get this New Mutant stalwart fully assembled and see what he's all about. Alright toy fans, here we have Warlock fully assembled, and this Build-A-Figure is a huge mixed bag. And he's also very big. Let me first say that the sculpting and paintwork for this figure is actually pretty great. The detail of his hair, his face, the torso, arms, legs, cabling, the whole bit, they're all done very well. And they look just like they did on the comic book page. However, it is worth noting that the shoulders, upper arms, forearms, thighs, knees, lower legs, and feet are all cloned pieces of each other that seem to have simply been mirrored during the production process. Not a bad thing, just an observation. The only asymmetry we have to Warlock actually lies in the head sculpt, the torso sculpt, and his hands. In fact, his hands are where we can highlight one of his notable accessories. You can actually remove his left hand and place in the saw blade. Now, I've seen pictures online of his right hand being removed, but mine isn't budging. Perhaps some of you customizers out there can get creative, but for the rest of us who may be a bit too timid to accidentally junk our investments, you may run into this problem as well. Now, the entire sculpt for the figure appears to have been molded in an old brass-colored plastic, possibly even black, and a gold paint wash has been applied to the entire figure on top of that. For the most part, the effect works pretty nicely and gives Warlock an aged, patinaed look that you would expect to see from a cybernetic man who's been hanging around for a few years. Outside of the general wash on the figure, the only other paint applications I can find are in the eyes and the mouth for this figure, where a sort of cream-colored plastic has been applied. Articulation is a bit tricky for this guy to show off on camera, but let's see how we do here. His head can bend down that far and bend back all the way. It does rotate all the way around. He's got a ratcheted shoulder that will move forward very far and back very far. It also bends out from the body that far. There is a bicep swivel, a double jointed knee that's on a very soft joint, so be careful with that, and I've seen that breaking with people online. There is no forearm swivel that I can see, but the wrist will swivel, and there is a hinge so the wrist can move up and down, even with the saw hand. His torso is a point of contention for me. He's got a full rotation at the upper torso, but his ab crunch only goes forward that far, not very far at all, really. Back, not that far either. He's got no waist joint of any kind, so this guy's not going to get in any crouching positions. He's not going to bend over as much as he wanted to. That's a big detriment for me. His leg will bend forward that far. It'll bend back farther than most Legends, out from the body about that far. There is a swivel there at the thigh. Double jointed knees, again, it's kind of a softer joint, so be careful with that. That might break on you. No rotation at the leg at all, and then the foot will bend back that far, bend forward that far, and there's a ratchet on that, as well as having that Hasbro ankle pivot. Now, another part about the articulation need to mention that you're even seeing right here is that the cables on the back of the arms do tend to pop out pretty much anytime you move his arms away from the body. Those are not permanently affixed in there, which is great. It doesn't limit articulation, but it's also kind of an annoyance to deal with to constantly have to plug these things back in every time you pose your figure. So if you're not a fan of that sort of design implementation on your action figure, then this guy may not be for you. Height-wise, Warlock is pretty freaking tall, coming in at about 10 inches, which has him standing just a little bit taller than the Hulkbuster Build-A-Figure, but just a little bit shorter than the Giant Man. That means he dwarfs the rest of the New Mutants in your Marvel Legends collection. It also reminds us that we should have had a larger collection by now. What's the deal, Hasbro? And finally, here he is compared to the 6-inch scale Marvel Legends Infinite Series Wolverine. Hello, Self-Friend Wolverine.
Nope, we're not doing this today.
Self doesn't understand. What has Self done wrong?
They wrote me out of your two-part episode in the 90s, and I still ain't over it.
Alright toy fans, well that's my review of the Warlock Build-A-Figure wave, part of the X-Men wave of Marvel Legends figures released by Hasbro in 2017. As I stated in the beginning, this guy is a bit of a mixed bag. If you can get past his lackluster articulation and the arm cables that don't stay put, and the elbow and knee joints that feel like they're gonna break very easily, well, then you've got an X-Men Build-A-Figure that certainly looks the part. Just don't get too excited about posing this guy around. Unfortunately, while it may be cool to get a bit of an obscure character in Marvel Legends form, in the case of this wave of X-Men Legends, the sum of the parts are greater than its whole. I'm thrilled to have every other figure in this wave to add to my collection of X-Men figures, especially considering how many first-time-in-the-line figures we actually received. But when it comes to this Warlock Build-A-Figure, he's never going to be more than another thing on my shelf. Hopefully next year Hasbro isn't quite as ambitious with their Build-A-Figure selection, and we end up getting another Build-A-Figure, like Juggernaut, who's a fun and sturdy figure to pose around, and doesn't end up feeling like leftovers for buying the entire wave. But let me know what you think, toy fans, and thanks for watching this review. You guys can always keep up with me on Twitter and Instagram at D21Beast, and I'll see you guys next time.